And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to start tonight's program by introducing Mitch Claw, Chrysler's Vehicle Line Executive, C&D segment.
Is there anything more American than America? Because you can't import original. You can't fake true cool. You can't duplicate legacy. Because what Detroit created was a first and became an inspiration to the rest of the world. Yeah, Detroit made cars and cars made America. Making the best, making the finest takes conviction. And you can't import the heart and soul of every man and woman working on the line. You can search the world over for the finer things, but you won't find a match for the American road and the creatures that live on it. Because we believe in the zoom and the roll and the thrust. And when it's made here, it's made with the one thing you can't import from anywhere else. American pride. So let Germany brew your beer. Let Switzerland make your watch. Let Asia assemble your phone. We will build your car.
Thank you. I am Mitch Claw. I'm the Vehicle Line Executive for C&D segment, and the 200 is one of my projects as well as a lot of the people right in this area. Just as a matter of recognition for all of our hardworking suppliers that are here tonight. I didn't get a chance to say hello to all of you. Some of you have met me through other means, but we're almost there. A lot of our top executives are here from product development, from quality, from purchasing, supplier quality, our brand. Thank you for showing up. You guys have been with us all along, and we're almost there. I had a lot of questions beforehand. We are shipping cars. Most of you saw that in the paper. We're shipping V6 units, so we're starting to replenish our dealerships who are out of the old 200s. And we're right now ramping up with our four-cylinder models. So I'll talk a little bit about each one of those in my presentation, and I'll segue into Sean Jeffers, who's one of the manufacturing leads on this program. A little bit about the segment. In the segment for North America, segments for North America between 2013 and 2019, if you look at the types of vehicles and where the trends are going, if you look at the far left, you can see where the bulk of the growth is in North America going forward, and that's C and D segment sedans. You can see the two on the far left being C and D, and of course the 200 is classified as a D sedan, and that is a piece of the market that we obviously have targeted and would like to be a big part of. Insofar as who makes up that segment right now, obviously the big guys in the segment for volume are Camry, Accord, Altima, Fusion, and Sonata. And you can see our old 200 as well as our Avenger. So those two in themselves were two different branded vehicles that we have now discontinued. Looking at the segment nameplates for 2013, looking at it a different way, between retail and fleet, basically it's sort of a repeat. The Camry, the Accord, the Altima, the Fusion, and the Sonata are the sort of the big cats, and then we have traditionally been with the 200 and the Dodge Avenger. We've brought up a sizable amount of volume between the two, But of course, going forward, we're going to be replacing those two really with one model that we're here to celebrate tonight. If you look at our total share going into this year, our dealers have garnished between the 200 and the Avenger about the same volume as the Sonata and Malibu. So people have asked, are you guys bullish on a plant the size of Shap filling it up? We've already proven we can. And now we think with one really, really good model that actually, as you'll see, stretches even further in a lot of ways, including technology. We're quite convinced that we have no risk with this vehicle, and we're quite excited about it. So there are really four different models, a family of vehicles for the 200, starting with the LX, the base model that we announced the pricing of that around $21,700. It's a lot of car, 9-speed automatic, 2.4 Tiger Shark engine, a lot of standard equipment. So we've sort of rocked the industry a few months back with our base pricing. The limited 200 is also a 4-cylinder version. That's where we really expect to sell almost 50% of our models. And in this segment, the vast majority of the bulk of the volume is with the inline 4 automatic in the D segment. But we offer, versus maybe some of the other guys, a couple more models you hear a lot and we'll talk a lot about tonight, the 200S and the 200C. When you go up into those models, as you look at the equipment list, you can get up in the V6, a lot of incredible safety features, a lot of customer convenience features. The interiors that go from incredible to super incredible if you look at some of the vehicles on the floor. And then, of course, all-wheel drive and some of the features. And a lot of the vehicles in the segment, only one or two have some of these types of options and equipment offerings. So our core communication points that we've broadcast over the last few months with the media is really the value of the car. We've talked a lot about that. Feel we're giving you a lot of value for the money. The fuel economy, we'll talk about that in a little bit. We've now got a 36 mile per gallon highway label that we now can say officially with our friends from EPA. Our quality, reliability, and durability. We're going to be not launching new powertrains with this. We've got now what we think is a pretty well understood and tried and true transmission, as well as a couple of engines that we've got a lot of time with, that we've been making more and more efficiency improvements to. But in this segment, they expect quality and reliability, so we don't think we're going into this segment with any new inventions. We think we're very stable and very solid in the propulsion systems. We also want to talk about, we'll talk about a lot tonight, our differentiation points of the 200, namely the safety. Chris Barman will talk a lot about that. We have the most safety features in our segment in a class. Design and performance, best-in-class horsepower, we'll talk about that, and our all-wheel drive system. Not many people have an all-wheel drive system, only one other guy in this segment does, and we have a really extremely sophisticated and much more competent, we feel, all-wheel drive system. It's very efficient. And comfort and convenience, John will talk about that, John Gaudreau, talking about the beautiful interiors of this car, whether it's the base model all the way up to the premium models. You can be proud of every one of the vehicles. At Chrysler, we do really nice interiors, and that continues with the 200. And then technology, our 9-speed, our 8.4-inch radio, our 7-inch TFT center cluster display. They're amongst the biggest. They are the biggest in the industry, and they're the most liked by a lot of third parties for both intuitiveness, size, and accessibility. And then last, world-class manufacturing. Sean will be up next talking about that. You saw her video of the ballet of the body shop, as some of us call it, but she'll talk a lot about the incredible investment we've made in the plant to make it. So we've talked a little bit about the all-new sleek and stylish exterior with the features. We have a lot of different things available. The vehicle, the outside of it has almost got a lot of jewelry on it in terms of the projector headlamps, the LED lights. A lot of detail went into the car. We took a lot of pride in just the craftsmanship of the vehicle at every level, the base level and the premium level. And then the finishes. John will talk a lot about that and some of the detail that went in some of the finishes. And then through the inside and the outside, just for energy conservation, things like that, heavy use of LEDs on this vehicle. And on the inside of the vehicle, most of you, I mean, the big aha when people open the door is, oh my God, look at that console. How did you guys do that? It didn't just happen. We made a lot of very strategic decisions on miniaturizing things like shifters and go to electronic park brakes. So we made some very upfront decisions because this segment cares a lot about storage and accessibility. So we wanted to not just create gimmicky storage, but really good everyday use storage where a person could put a full-size purse in that underseat, and as well as the cup holders and the accessibility of the sliding bin. That's pretty much standard on every model, so you don't have to option up to that. That's on every one of our models gets those types of things. Then we added a lot of things like dual ATC, passive, keyless go, standard. We have a lot of very standard features on all models here. Again, back to our value proposition with the 200. In that console, we also have been pretty vocal. We've got the biggest bins. We've got the biggest storage, both underneath as well as in the bins, both the forward bin and the rear bin. We have the best volume for cubic inches in both of those bins, and we're quite proud of it. Each millimeter was hard fought. Every millimeter was hard fought over a year up front, going after every little detail. And then in terms of what the driver sees in the displays, we have a 7-inch customized TFT display, which is right between the speedo and the tack. A lot of very clear information is displayed in that. We think it is the biggest one of the biggest in the segment, as well as our 8.4-inch touchscreen radio, which comes on the premium models. And then we've got a 5-inch Bluetooth version on the touchscreen on the standard models. Both are amongst the biggest, if the biggest, on the premium in their segment. So again, we're getting a lot of very good accolades from third party on both the size and the intuitiveness of those. So we're really proud of them. We've used those on several vehicles. You're going to continue to see the use of that family of electronics going forward. And then not last but not least, but the 200 on trunk volume is only second to one other vehicle in the segment at 16 cubic feet. So again, the trunk volume is very big for this consumer in this segment. So we think that there's only one guy who edged us out on the SAE trunk stack, but not by much. So talk a little bit about our propulsion systems. We've got a 2.4 liter multi-air Tiger Shark standard with a 36 mile per gallon highway and 28 combined, which is really quite good. With 184 horsepower, which is a 6% increase from the outgoing model, and 173 foot-pounds of torque, which is a 10% increase from the outgoing model. And then the 3.6, which is what we call our no excuses engine. It's best-in-class horsepower in this segment. And the mile per gallon for the front-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive are listed, but the front-wheel drive is at 1932 and a combined of 23. That's very, very good for a premium engine with that type of horsepower and torque. And again, at 295 horsepower with regular unleaded, that is really a no-excuses vehicle. It is the most fun to drive vehicle I think is in the segment. The rotary shifter that every vehicle comes standard as the 9-speed is standard with all models is on every model. And then we have the most advanced all-wheel drive system in the segment. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And then we're really quite proud of when you get a V6, you get paddles, and when you get paddles, you get sport mode. And we think we've done a lot with this 9-speed transmission, that engine with that amount of power, and all the active and passive safety equipment on the car that all play together really well to give us the most fun to drive sport mode in the segment. In terms of fuel efficiency, the CO2 reduction has been a sort of a primary motivator for a lot of the things we've done below the scenes of the car. The 2.4 is a wonderful engine with multi-air 2. It's our second level of multi-air that has further improvements from multi-air 1, which launched, I think, with 3 years on the original 2.4 Tiger Shark engine. But again, it's got just another evolution in the family of Tiger Shark engines, and we've got a lot of time with this engine, and we're very confident in it. There's some of the features. I think a lot of these have been featured in SAE magazine, the Tiger Shark. I won't go into a lot of detail between the Tiger Shark Pentastar and and the 9-speed. They've gotten a lot of dedicated articles about the technology in each one of them. But again, it's a really good, solid engine, very good for torque, very good for horsepower, and it really makes the car fun to drive, and it's very efficient. So the Pentastar, again, the 3.6, we call it no excuses engine, 295 horsepower. It is a dual overhead cam VVT, variable valve timing engine. It's a very high-tech V6 with a lot of efficiency improvements that have been brought into the Pentastar over the last couple of years, again, for CO2 reduction and performance increase. But you can see on the horsepower and torque curve, it is really a no excuses engine. And if anybody's not had a chance to test drive this vehicle with a V6, it's beyond anybody's expectations. 9-speed, I know the ZF guys have got their display back there. We've talked a lot about it. This is our second application launching the 9-speed. It's a complete electronic capability with a 5-position rotary. With sport mode, you get the extra sport mode button. And then it's got a very compact design. From a mid-size sedan or a C&D segment type vehicle, this transmission has some distinct advantages in size. It is the size of a normal 6-speed automatic. So this gives us, we think, a real strategic advantage that we can put this amount of gearing in cars that would typically only be able to package a 6-speed. So the competitive aero assessment for drag, the bars in the blue are actually some of the competitive vehicles. We took the names off of them because we knew a lot of them. You were here tonight and didn't want anybody to choke on their cannoli. So, but in terms of competitive aero assessment for drag, the competitive average is at 0.301. You can see the UF, it's just code name for this vehicle, down at 0.27. And then similarly for aero for force, we're at the competitive average of 7.53, and we're up at around 6. We're down at 6.910, and the rest of the blue bars, frankly, are the competitive set. And then for frontal area, this is probably the thing you're most proud of, is that the vehicle is a little on the larger side in its segment, but we overcame that through just really good engineering in the wind tunnel. Having the advantage of a full-size wind tunnel in the complex continues to give us a very strategic advantage that we're taking what is one of the larger frontal areas in the segment and converting that in the previous charts to the slipperiest car in the segment. And then where it matters is in the end, which is in this particular case mostly the highway label, but the ability for the vehicle to glide through the air and get a highway label of 36, which we're really quite proud of. There's only one or two guys that have been able to do better than that, and we think we've got a very robust label on that car as well as on the V6. So a little bit about the all-wheel drive system. This is the family of all-wheel drive systems that we launched last year. This is a single-speed system. It's got a first-in segment, full disconnect. It disconnects both at the power takeoff unit as well as the rear differential module. So there is no spin loss. Again, the dedication we've made in this system is just the most efficient system, and that we basically for CO2 made some very costly decisions to make sure that when you have all-wheel drive, you are barely penalized at all. Just the mass of the system in the car is all you actually see. So when this system is on, it's a smart system. It's a driver does not have to do any intervention at all. And again, we made other investments like a 3-piece prop. You would not see that on anything but a very premium luxury car. We did that to minimize driveline torsional variation, and we never have any problems with driveline noise on this vehicle because of that investment. So a little bit about the way the system operates. It's designed really to maintain a balance between performance and fuel economy. It's a purely on-demand system. It's on only when either you're in sport mode or when it determines through what we call triggers to turn itself on. Things like temperature, road conditions, driving scenarios. There are things we do in the electronics where we sense that you need all-wheel drive, including, of course, slip at the corners, that will turn it on. When we do not we do not sense any of these triggers. This system is always off, so the driver only has it on when they want it on. And of course, when you're in things like sport mode, we expect that you want to have fun, so that in those scenarios, this system would be on. Insofar as the chassis is concerned, there's some, again, really nice displays in the back. Our front suspension is a McPherson base. It's almost predominantly aluminum, so a lot of great hard work went into lightweighting it. A very high percentage of aluminum, including in the front cross member, to get very good P over F, because our NVH is very important to us. That's a high pressure die cast cross member. You'd see that really only in a very premium vehicle. Again, another example of an investment we made because road noise and things like that are extremely important to us. It's something we think we're very good at. We went lightweighting on things like sway bars, and then on the rear suspension, it's a 4-link independent isolated suspension, and that's standard on every model, both 2- and 4-wheel drive. There are slightly unique geometry for the 2- and 4-wheel drive, but they're both completely isolated and independent. And again, a lot of lightweighting went into this vehicle on the chassis, including the knuckles and both front and rear, everywhere. I think we've got probably one of the most extensive use of aluminum in the chassis and the driveline components. I didn't talk a lot about it, but the EPS system on this system is a dual pinion system that we've debuted last year. It's a great system for us. It enables a lot of the systems that Chris is going to talk about in a minute. It also gives us an over 15-to-1 ratio, and it gives us up to almost a 12 kilonewton rack load capability on a vehicle like this, where we choose to go up to 17, 18, and 19-inch wheels and tires. A lot of segment doesn't go up that high. This is a great balance between a very fast ratio and a very capable system to handle anything we put at it in terms of park loads. In terms of sport mode, again, we think we've done a lot of benchmarking of the Europeans and the Asians that use sport mode. And we think we probably have the most sophisticated system in terms of the amount of systems in the vehicle that it interfaces with, both on the engine as well as the transmission. And in the transmission, there's several different shift maps that can get actuated depending upon the driving situation you're in. The all-wheel drive system, again, with the sophistication that it's got, also plays very well with this, and that we can do a lot more with this system, especially when you can throw 60% of the torque to the rear, which is a lot versus anybody else. And then, of course, we've got our speed sensitivity is in the EPS system that also engages in sport mode when it knows you're in sport mode. And then you get a lot of driver information, display information back. It gives you a lot of onboard real-time feedback in terms of what systems are sensing what. And then the adaptive cruise control in the ESC, it does give you the notice that ESC is off, but it's not really off. We still make sure the driver's safe during all those modes. A little bit about wind noise. Again, we're again very proud of how quiet we make our cars. It's another thing we're noted for, but this just gives you an idea of the 200C versus min and max of the competitors. So this is, if you've read some of the early reviews of this car, at highway speeds and road noise, people are very enamored with how quiet it is. And again, that was a stated objective of this vehicle. We wanted to be noted for that. And then for loudness, just the wind noise, again, similar metric. We made some very big investments in this car on acoustic front and side glass that a lot of people that we compete with did not. Again, a very highly stated objective was to get this car quiet both on the road and moving through the air.